Okay, I'm going to call to order this public hearing of the Court of Common Council of Hartford. I am Councilman Mictum. I am joined by Corporation Counsel Jonathan Harding to my left, and on the big screen we have Councilman Gale, Councilwoman Surgeon, Councilwoman Rossetti, Councilwoman Bilodeau, Councilwoman Rosado, and Councilman Clark. And I'm going to briefly read the rules for public hearing, and I'll tell you what's on the agenda, and then we'll get started. We have 6 folks signed up, but if you didn't sign up, we'll give you a minute afterward to jump in. So, public hearing is conducted in accordance with the following procedures. Each person wishing to address the council shall, upon recognition by the presiding officer, give his or her name, address, and if they represent a group, shall, in addition, state for the record the name and address of the group or organization, and they shall limit their remarks to 5 minutes. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body and not to any individual member. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or who becomes boisterous while addressing the council shall be forthwith barred by the presiding officer from further audience at said meeting unless permission to remain is granted by a 2/3 vote of the council members present and voting. During public hearing, there shall be no debate by the council, although questions may be asked by council of persons making presentations. For members of the community, please remember that this meeting is being broadcast and recorded by Hartford Public Access Television, can be viewed at the HPA-TV Facebook page, Comcast Infinity Channel 96, HPA-TV.org, or Channel 6032 for Frontier customers. Spanish interpretation is provided through a partnership with the City of Hartford and the Hartford Public Library. And in the future, if you need another language interpretation or other accommodations, let us know and we will make those accommodations. We have 4 items up for discussion this evening. The first is Mayor Aralumpalam with accompanying resolution approving an air rights and sidewalk easement for a pedestrian bridge over Washington Street. The second is Mayor Aralumpalam with accompanying ordinance establishing the Hartford Land Bank Authority. Third is Mayor Aralumpalam with accompanying ordinance establishing Juneteenth as a city holiday. And the fourth is an ordinance sponsored by council members Bilodeau, Clark, Surgeon, Rossetti, Rosado, Gale, and Hernandez, amending Article 4, Section 17-76 of the Municipal Code of Hartford for the prohibition of smoking around splash pads and playgrounds. So as I call your name and you come to speak, or you speak over the Zoom connection, just let us know name, address, affiliation, if any, and also what you're speaking on, which can be more than one thing, and whether you are for or against that thing. So first on our list, and I'm just setting up my timer at the same time, first on our list is Donna Swar, who is on the big screen. You have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I am for item number 4 about the ordinance to say that it's not a good thing to smoke around children at the playscapes and the splash pads. I think it is extremely well known that secondhand smoke is really bad. And so I don't think anybody's going to argue with us about that. When this item was first brought to PRAC, it didn't really resonate with us. We kind of fell flat. You know how it is. Who knows what happened to somebody earlier in the day. But what happened was there's so many of our park ordinances that are not adhered to by the public, so many that are not enforced, that we felt it was, well, a waste of time. And the second time it was brought to us, Hyacinth Yenny asked us to reconsider. And I did. And I just want to tell you that in Colt Park, we were having a tremendous problem with dog waste. And I asked around in other people's parks and said, what are you doing? And pretty much the answer was, there's nothing you can do about it, it's disgusting. But when I talked to Riverfront Recapture, and Chris Hayes was there at the time, I asked them what they were doing. And they said they did have a horrible problem, and that what they had done was gone out and bought some of these dog waste bag dispensers, because right there on the cover where the little bags come out, it said, "Help keep our park clean." And it basically reminds people of an expectation. And then we also say, "Here, I'm going to help you." So that is something that has been effective. I'm not saying that we are dog waste free in Colt Park. What I'm saying is that it's made a very big difference. The reminder. I think I only have to replace the bags quarterly. So it's not a big expense. And I got a grant to do that, and it's really made a big difference. So my message tonight is, you already got so many counselors who have voted or have said that they're in favor of this. I'm going to pretty much assume that it's going to pass. But what I want to say is that I think you need to offer something more of an enticement, something to support what you want them to not do, okay? So I would like you to review the written testimony that I provided, and I gave like 4 different images of signage that different communities have used. And they draw your attention to what the problem is. I'm afraid that if we put up one of those regular old ordinance number, blah, 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 do not do, blah, 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 it's just going to be another sign. And quite frankly, our parks don't need just another sign. But if it actually had a message, I think that would be hugely helpful, and in a colorful way, a graphic message. And the other thing is, if you want people to put out their cigarettes or whatever else they're smoking, you don't want them to put them on the ground. We're just going to have a pile of cigarette butts, and we have a big enough cigarette butt problem as it is. And it happens to be one of the most polluting problems that we have in our parks. So that's my whole message in a nutshell. I'm hoping that when it is enacted, when it is carried out, that some thought goes into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Will you just tell us, are you here officially representing
Oh,
PrAC?
I'm so sorry. I am here, Donna Swar, representing Colt Park Foundation.
Thank you so much.
Sure, I'm so sorry.
And next up, also on the big screen, is Miss Violet Haldane. And the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Violet Haldane, and I guess I'm going to speak on 2 items. The first one, my address is Lebanon Street in Hartford, and the first topic I'm speaking on is I'm in favor of the Hartford Land Bank becoming a land bank authority. My understanding is that it would give the land bank some additional rights and responsibilities, one of which would be access to share in the taxes collected on properties for the first 5 years after the property has transferred to the land bank and been sold to a homeowner or developer. And so I want to say I was in favor of that. I wish the ordinance had more language associated with it so we could really see the details, but in spirit, I am in favor of it. And the second topic, I'm speaking off the top of my head. I didn't realize it was on the agenda. The organization I represent is Advocacy to Legacy, and we do a lot of legislation in regards to tobacco usage and, advocacy for youth around the city of Hartford. We've worked out with the city on 2 or 3 policy changes already. And in our work, when we are out in the city, especially at parks, and we're doing work regarding tobacco cessation or retail density, people have come up to us, parents, and asked us, is there something that we could do in regards to people smoking around places where children are playing in particular the playscapes in public parks. And so I'm happy to see that it was brought up again. I know that enforcement may be difficult, but I think it's something that we need to address or at least be mindful of. And as Ms. Donna said in regards to signage, even if it just said, I saw one of the signs in the background, children at play or young lungs growing, something so that people can understand the impact of second and third hand smoke on young people. It might not completely eliminate it, but at least deter it. And so I'm also in favor of that. Thank you.
Thank you much. And I will just say that if anyone, I heard Ms. Haldane say that she'd like to see more of the language, you can always go for any of these things that are on the agenda. You go to hartford.civicweb.net and you click on meetings, and then you find the meeting that we're talking about it at, which would be today's public hearing, and you can click on the agenda, and from there you can see all of the statutory language and all the boring details. So that is there for you.
I did look, and it was like less than a half a page. So it's not enough to really inform people of what it actually means, in my opinion.
Fair enough. Well,
Okay.
let's follow up and maybe we can make it better.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to make sure everyone had the basic information. Next up is Hyacinth Yenny, who is here in the room.
Good evening, council members and Zoom and council person in person, resident. I'm Hyacinth Yenny, and I chair the Maple Avenue Revitalization Group. I'm also a commissioner in Parks PRAC, and I'm here to speak on this item number 2.4. And I think the reason why it came to my attention is, and I want to be clear, I'm doing this because of our children, the safety and health of our children. Going into Bushnell Park some time ago and sitting at the play area where my grandchildren play, and sat there, have to inhale all of that secondhand smoke, from the marijuana to the cigarette to whatever they smoke in that park. And it comes to my mind, and I'm saying to myself, why is it that these parents bring their children to the park and smoke while the children are playing right in the play area? So can you imagine children has to deal with that smoking at home and have to even come out in the ear at a park and have to deal with it? Now, as a city and council members, we need to take more responsibility and the safety and the health of our children. I know maybe health is not one of your forte or whatever they may cause, may be saying, but I think it's really important to have people who cares about the health and safety of our city. Because if we don't have healthy people, most of them are ended up into the hospital where it's costing us money for treatment. Our children are vulnerable. We need to protect them from that kind of secondhand smoke. And so I'm here to support this for the reason, for our children. And as parents, you all may know that, whatever we put in children's lungs, it affects them later in life. So I think it's really important for us to look at this ordinance and tweak what needs to be tweaked in it. And we don't have to worry about, well, who's going to enforce it? Well, 25 feet away from the play area, if you look at St. Francis Hospital, Hartford Hospital, they have ways of telling their workers, you cannot smoke on the premises. And by simple drawing a line, a blue line, whatever the case may be. As parents going to the park, and if there's a nice sign put there, do not smoke in this play area, respect the health of your children, I can say, hey, do you see that sign? Please do not smoke around this area. We don't need a police to police us, right? So we put a good enough sign that tells the public, respect the health of your children. And that's all we're asking for. So I am in full support of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Hyacinth. Next up is Jackie Nadal, who I thought I saw on the big screen.
Did I disappear?
No, you were in a different place than where I looked last time, but you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, council members and residents. Jackie Daw, Freeman Street. I'm calling in support of Ordinance 2.4, in particular prohibiting smoking around splash pads and playgrounds where our most valued residents, our children, are and can be exposed to secondhand smoke. I mean, this should be an automatic courtesy, but it's not. With increased cases that we see with respiratory cases on the rise, we need to advocate better for our youth, and this ordinance will allow us to do so. I believe that signage will also be important, as many have already spoken on. So that said, I do appreciate your time on this sensitive matter, and thank you for being here, and have a good evening.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Carrie Shea, who is here in the building.
Hi, I'm Carrie Shea, a resident of Frog Hollow, 7 Columbia Street. I'd like to speak in favor of 2.1, the resolution approving air rights and sidewalk easement for a pedestrian bridge over Washington Street. Typically, I would not be in favor of a pedestrian bridge. I think everyone knows now that the best thinking and practice as far as pedestrian bridges and planning is to, avoid them whenever possible and have people walk on the street. It makes streets more vibrant. It's good for businesses. However, this is a hospital. It operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The parking garage is for both employees of the hospital as well as for people coming there with their young children to seek, medical assistance. I think that considering folks will be coming in and out of the parking garage at midnight, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, in February, in January, in bad weather, with a sick child and maybe dragging along 2 other kids who couldn't be left alone at home. It's the benefit of the bridge outweighs the disadvantages. So I am in favor of the resolution. Thank you very much.
Well, Ms. Shea, don't go away. I have a question for you. I'm asking because I know you know a lot about this issue. And if you know, this easement that the city would be giving, it's a bridge from CCMC to a parking garage that's yet to be built, correct?
Yes.
And who owns the bridge and who owns the garage, or who will own the garage?
My understanding is that the garage will be owned by Laz Parking. That is my understanding. Owned and operated.
And the bridge too?
I do not know. I would imagine the bridge would be owned by the hospital. When the hospital has presented the project in public, they showed the hospital expansion building and the bridge. So I assume that those 2 pieces were owned by them.
And since I've already dragged Ms. Shea back to the podium, do any of my colleagues have any questions for her? Nothing? All right, that's all I had. Thank you. Next up is Angela Harris, whom I see there on the screen. Although I know she had another meeting, so she may be on the screen but doing something else at once. So I think what I'm going to do, since I'm not hearing her pipe up, is ask if there's anyone else on the screen or here in the room who would like to address council on any of these questions. Going once? Yes, maybe?
That we remove the.
Good evening.
I didn't.
Good evening, this is Angela
Oh, there you go. I'm sorry. I just didn't
from
hear you well.
Phillips. Sorry, I had to step away from the meeting.
Not
We're
a
still
problem.
in the Northeast NRZ meeting, which meets monthly on third Mondays, same time many of these public hearings happen. So let me just excuse myself and get to a quiet spot.
Yeah, take your time. Was there, Rhodey, I saw you. Did you want to speak? Angela, do you want us to give you a minute? And we'll let,
I would like to go last if there are other
Okay.
people that can go before me. Thank you.
Yes, we
I
will
have put that in the chat.
okay, we'll send you up.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there was anyone else left before you, but you have at least 3 or 4 minutes, I suppose. So I will, you're up next, I expect.
Good evening. My name is Rhodey Genie. I'm a resident of Babcock Street, and I am one of the co-chairs of the Frog Hollow NRZ. I'm speaking related to the bridge easement. I am not speaking for or against the bridge easement. We have our meeting tomorrow, and we haven't specifically discussed this issue. But you know, a lot of the discussion around the bridge easement has been focused on the need for the bridge because of the safety or lack thereof around the hospital. And you know, on behalf of the NRZ, we have lots of discussions about the need to improve this corridor and the safety around this corridor. And so, you know, here really I'm just here to emphasize that regardless of the decision of the bridge, we need to make more efforts to improve safety along Washington Street corridor. And we need to make those changes and those improvements for everyone that's you know, traveling through the area, whether it's our residents, whether it's the staff at the hospital, or obviously patients and those that need the critical care that, that this hospital provides. And so the bridge is not a panacea of, to safety. We must do more to address the safety around here, and I would hope that a vote in favor of this easement would be a vote in favor of future improvements and support around safety measures and future planning from the city council and from the mayor. So again, I'm not in support of or against this. On behalf of the NRZ, we really are focused on improving safety overall for everyone.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you, if you know from in your capacity at the NRZ, what, if anything, has the hospital offered to the city in the way of payment or community benefits or anything in exchange for this easement?
In exchange to the city, I don't know that I can speak to that related to the easement.
If you don't know, you don't know. No worries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room who wants to speak before I go back to Ms. Harris? All right, Ms. Harris, I think your time has come.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Angela Harris from Phillips Metropolitan Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. I chair the Health Committee, the Health Ministry, and I would like to speak on items 2.2 and 2.4. I'd like to take 2.4 first, as it is a health-related matter. Someone promoting public health. I think this is a layup. It's a really common sense ordinance that I would encourage you all to support in making sure that the health and well-being of our residents, especially our young people, are not exposed to second and third-hand smoke, whether it be tobacco, vaping, cannabis, all of the above. I think we would do well by enforcing this, and as we led with the Tobacco 21 legislation a few years back, perhaps this would also be another model for the state of Connecticut. Number 2.2, regarding the Hartford Land Bank, being transitioned to the Hartford Land Bank Authority, I would support this ordinance with a caveat that the city council, the mayor, those elected into leadership would keep an eye on this body as it is provided city assets to deploy after housing is developed. And I would ask that you would lean in on making sure that Hartford residents benefit from this. I know that's the intention, but it doesn't necessarily always play out that way. And as you know, it's still a young organization. If we could fortify some of the policies and procedures, I would greatly appreciate it. I have been attending their board meetings, and just about every meeting there's an issue that is worthy of addressing. And so I would ask your elected officials to perhaps do the same and pay a little bit more attention of what happens to these resources that you all are relaying over to the land bank, that those assets benefit the members of the city of Hartford as a primary. I know it's not always possible, but as a primary deployment of the resource, I would hope that that's something that could be fortified a little bit more than it is. Okay. The membership of the board, I see that they're looking at to have 11 members, and I don't know if this ordinance would change their bylaws, but right now they are not at full capacity. So if that is the pleasure of this city council, as you all are looking to codify this in an ordinance, I would hope that with that being done, that you would make sure that the board is fully seated as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. I assume that among the small group of people in the room, there's no one else who changed their mind and decided they wanted to speak. In which case, that concludes this public hearing, and it is adjourned. And tomorrow we reconvene at noon for budget deliberations, so tune in for that. It'll probably go all afternoon and evening. And have a lovely night.